The last time we saw Bobby Boucher, he had another amazing season, leading the LSU Tigers to another college football playoffs on his way to a back-to-back Heisman Trophy campaign, along with a national championship victory over Coach Red Boy U and Georgia. But things got even better for Bobby after the national championship, because not only did Bobby and Vicky Valancourt get married, but Bobby had found out that his daddy Roberto was alive. And he even showed up to Bobby's wedding to try to convince him to go to the NFL.
Bobby, it's me, your daddy, Roberto. You know, I seen you on the ESPN when they was talking about you being drafted by the NFL.
And although Mama definitely had to get her lick in, because Roberto had deserted them. She didn't think going to the NFL was too bad of an idea.
I'm gonna go do it.
Because since Bobby's already graduated, now it's time for him to go to the NFL and take his talents to Madden. The first thing that Bobby has to do when he gets to the NFL is work out at the scouting combine. Bobby's never been too far outside of Louisiana before, but he came to Lucas Oil Stadium ready to do what he had to do. And his first workout was the 40-yard dash. You see, Bobby was just learning how to do this only a couple minutes before, so you might be surprised to find out that when he got down in his stance, he got off to a perfect start. He was running down the track like Steve used to do when he was a racehorse. Bobby ended up finishing with a 4.35, which is blazing fast for a linebacker. He then moved on to the bench press, and Bobby always had that sort of country strength in him, so he wasn't too surprised to see that he got 20 reps. And then he moved on to the shuttle and the broad jump. Broad jump he didn't do too bad in, but the shuttle he actually did really well in, ending up with a 4.22. He finished off with some miscellaneous drills before the scouts told him that they thought he did really well today. And after the workout, Bobby had agreed to do a combine interview where people would ask him some football questions. And Bobby actually knew some of the answers from the interview because his teammates told him back at LSU. And other times they would just ask him personal questions, like why he wants an alligator to represent an NFL team.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
And Bobby ended up doing okay on the interview. He was still projected to be a top 10 pick. But when we got to draft day, when you look at the board, it seems like Bobby's already slid to 18th. So he's just sitting there waiting until he gets a call from Coach Klein in the Cincinnati Bengals, telling Bobby that he got a new job in Cincinnati and that he wants him there. And although Bobby doesn't even know where Cincinnati is, he tells Coach that he's ready to go. And finally, Bobby Boucher gets to walk across the stage and start his journey into the NFL. After the draft was over, Bobby signed his contract and had a talk with Coach Klein about what to focus on this preseason. Because just because Bobby made it to the NFL, that didn't mean he had nothing to prove. Because Coach Klein had basically gave him the starting job even though he was a 65 overall. So Bobby Boucher was looking to play well, going into his first NFL action in the preseason against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now that Bobby's finally in the NFL, he decided that he needs to stay locked in and just see what's in front of him. So starting off Bobby Boucher's NFL career here off on 1st and 10, he's seeing pretty quickly how good this Bengals defense could really be. Because not even 3 plays in, this Bengals defense is already forcing a safety. But Bobby wanted to prove that he can make an impact on this team too. So right here on 1st and 10, you see Bobby Boucher bursting into the backfield to get the first tackle for loss of his career. And Bobby is making it very clear that he's not going to be scared of anybody. The Buccaneers did make some pretty good plays this game, like this pass that went up the middle. But Bobby was doing a great job making an impact early enough in this game that Coach Klein decided it was best to take the rest of the starters out, because they've seen enough to know that Bobby Boucher is going to do big things in this league. But being in the NFL now, reporters are going to want to ask questions all the time now. Like one reporter had asked Bobby how it feels starting his first season with the Bengals. And Bobby just told him that he's honored to be playing and have an opportunity to make more friends. But before Bobby got into his first regular season game in the NFL, he went on ahead about upgrading his ratings. And the first thing that he decided to upgrade was his hit power, because he knows that's one thing that's going to come mostly in handy for him in the NFL. And now Bobby was excited as ever going into his first regular season game against the New England Patriots. Starting this game off later in the first quarter, This Drake May-led New England Patriots team was not playing very well, finding themselves way behind sticks by the time the first fourth down came along. But now down 10, this Patriots team was doing their best to move the ball on Bobby's Bengals defense. And for a couple plays, they were doing pretty well, getting themselves down past midfield. But as New England continued to move downfield, somebody on this Bengals defense was going to have to make a play. So who else but Bobby Boucher with the first pick of his NFL career. Everybody's so excited that even Drake May's happy for him. You can't help but feel like this is just going to be the first of many, and Bobby Boucher will continue to make plays just like this one. Bobby's Bengals found themselves up 20, and New England was having a pretty hard time moving the ball now. And it definitely didn't make it easy when they tried to throw it to Bobby's zone across the middle. But eventually New England would find some success in this game, eventually getting themselves down into the red zone, and then ultimately into the end zone for their first score of the game. But after the Bengals offense kept scoring, and New England's offense kept finding ways to turn the ball over, it eventually became enough for Bobby's Bengals to win their first game of their regular season. But before Bobby gets into his next game, he gets another interview from a reporter asking Bobby where he finds the most success during the game.
That's a good question. What happens is the center has the ball first, and quarterback will say hike. That's when the center puts the ball into the hands of the quarterback. So what I'll do is I'll start tackling the quarterback unless he give the ball to somebody else, in which case I'll try to tackle that person.
What the hell?
Now that Bobby was done with the interview, he was ready to get into his next game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Starting this game off in the rain on 1st and 10. And his Bengals defense came ready today because they pick off Patrick Mahomes on the very first play. But obviously with Mahomes being Mahomes and the Chiefs being the Chiefs, you can always expect that they're going to make a few plays of their own. By the second quarter, Bobby was making his presence felt by getting a nice tackle for loss here on first down, and then stopping the ball carrier right in his tracks here on second down. Eventually, this Bengals defense would hold them to a field goal, and luckily, they would hold this Chiefs offense pretty much all game. There was a few plays where Coach Klein got suspicious of the Chiefs and figured that maybe they're paying off the refs. And then there was the play where Travis Kelce started making fun of Bobby.
Hey, moron! Dude! Look at me! I'm the WaterBoy, dude! Stop making fun of me. Damn!
Bobby had pretty much knocked Travis into next Sunday. But for now, they had to finish the game that was being played on this Sunday, and it wasn't going to be easy. Especially playing against a team that felt like they could score any time that they wanted to.
And that's caught inside the 35. And he takes this one into the end zone.
But luckily, the scoring was a little too late for the Chiefs, and Bobby's Bengals were able to escape Arrowhead with a victory. The following week at practice, one of Bobby's teammates pulls him to the side and tells him that he believes he's going to dominate this game. And Bobby just appreciates that people actually believe in him like that.
Thanks, friend.
And Bobby definitely didn't want to let anybody down. So he went into next week fired up and ready to go against the Washington Commanders. Starting this game off on 2nd and 6, Bobby Boucher is finding himself in the backfield for a tackle for loss. And the rest of Bobby's defense was really doing their thing as well, because they didn't let the Commanders pass their own 40-yard line up until the fourth quarter. But even right here on this 4th and 5, when they were trying to keep moving down the field, it was Bobby Boucher who would say, "No way." And not only put an end to that drive, but give him the second pick of his season. And with Bobby's Bengals absolutely dominating Jaden Daniels and the rest of this Washington Commander offense, it was no surprise that after this big hit, the Commanders were ready to give up, and Bobby's Bengals would walk out of the stadium with their first shutout victory of the season. But this NFL season was moving fast, and maybe a little too fast, Because next thing he knew, Bobby was already getting into his next game against the Carolina Panthers. And as more weeks went by, the more Bobby missed his mama. But Bobby doesn't have time to worry about that right now. Because we start this game off on 1st and 10, where Carolina completes a big pass upfield. Bobby would find himself a little bit distracted on this play because he just watches as the running back walks into the end zone for a touchdown. But the Bengals did bounce back. Maybe not so much on offense, but on defense they did get a stop next drive. And eventually they were able to force a field goal not just once, but twice before the first half. But I think Carolina could tell that Bobby's heart and spirit was not really in it this game, because they were doing a good job driving down the field here on 1st down, and eventually they would punch it in from goal to extend their lead. But that didn't mean Bobby would give up, because he would rush into the backfield to stop the quarterback for a loss. But right here, Bobby is not focused, and he allows a big 1st down right here from Carolina that pretty much ends this game. And as you can see, Bobby is running off the field before the time runs out. He's not really taking this loss too well. Although he missed his mama, Bobby knew that he still had a job to do. So he still worked hard and trained to get better. And that helped him prepare for his next game against the Baltimore Ravens. Going into this Ravens game, Coach Klein tells Bobby that Lamar Jackson is one of the fastest players in the league. And a good way to stop him is to get to him before he goes anywhere. So Bobby tries his best here to start this game off. And is able to get his first sack of his NFL career. Bobby's Bengals would get a stop on this drive before letting up an absolute bomb of a play down the middle on the next. But the Bengals did a great job holding the Ravens to a field goal. And even down at the goal line, Bobby was doing everything he could to make sure that the Ravens did not get into the end zone.
Who that? Who dare?
But the Ravens were admittedly persistent, not only getting into the end zone here on this drive, before making it down into the red zone the next drive, before Lamar Jackson throws a pick into the end zone with 30 seconds left that would ultimately seal the deal, allowing Bobby and the Bengals to finish out the week with another victory. But before Bobby got into his next game, he wanted to start his ratings over from scratch, because he realized that if he diversifies his talents, he could potentially make a bigger impact all over the field. So Bobby wanted to balance out his skills going into his next game against the New York Giants. Starting this game off on 1st down, Bobby is already making an impact, getting into the backfield for a TFL. And Bobby's Bengals really never let up on Daniel Jones this day, because they would continuously find themselves in the backfield screaming at his face, and even eventually forcing a fumble like they did right here on this play. And this Bengals player was able to pick the ball up and go all the way to the other side of the field for a Cincinnati Bengal touchdown. And this just felt like another game where almost the entire game, Bobby's Bengals did not allow the opponent to even step past midfield. And that would be 100% true for this game, other than the one drive where the Giants were able to find some success getting downfield and eventually into the end zone to tie the game up. But after another half where the Giants had either gone continuously 3 and out or turned the ball over just like they did here on this play, eventually this game was well out of reach. And Bobby's Bengals were ready to leave New York with another victory. The following week at practice, Coach Klein pulls Bobby aside to tell him that he's not going to be there for a couple weeks, but not to ask why. And although Bobby did think that was weird, he didn't really have time to think about it too much because his quarterback Joe Burrow also pulled him aside. Apparently, Nick Chubb had called him out.
Captain Insano shows no mercy.
But you see, Bobby don't play that. So Bobby and the Bengals went into their next game against Cleveland, fired up and ready to go. We start this game off on 1st and 10 where Bobby's Bengals are living in the backfield. But Nick Chubb had started this game with his X Factor on, and he was looking for something to prove of his own. But when Bobby heard about what Deshaun Watson did with all those girls at the massage parlor, he knew he had to make them pay. So right here, Bobby drops back into coverage and says, "Hey, this ain't no massage parlor, Deshaun. There ain't gonna be no happy ending today." But Bobby wasn't done yet, because he wanted to make everybody pay by forcing a fumble right here that gets picked up by the Bengals. But for some reason, this guy Nick Chubb thinks it's a good idea to start talking crazy to Bobby again.
Ooh, I'm a football player.
Coach, I'd like to tackle him right now.
And that wasn't a good idea. And right as you think it can't get worse for the Browns, Deshaun Watson throws another pick. And Bobby Boucher is lighting Nick Chubb up once again. Now the Browns did get into the end zone a couple times in the fourth quarter. But by the end of the game, Cleveland knew that it was a bad idea to start talking crazy to Bobby's Bengals, as they were handed a 27-15 divisional loss. But that game was nothing, not compared to the huge matchup the Bengals had going into next week against the Philadelphia Eagles. Starting this game off on second down, Bobby is making his presence felt with a big hit, and did a great job finding himself in the backfield early, taking Saquon Barkley down to the ground. But the Philadelphia Eagles would prove to be a worthy opponent by scoring a touchdown on their opening drive. And this game would remain a low-scoring game throughout the majority of the first half, because although the Eagles found themselves back at the goal line, Bobby's Bengals were able to hold them to a field goal this time. And when Philadelphia once again made their way back into goal-to-goal territory, Bobby made sure to put a stop to that single-handedly. And it almost looked like two of his teammates wanted to marry him for it. But perhaps that was a little premature, because Philadelphia would find themselves in the end zone later on in the fourth quarter, leaving it up to the Bengals offense to regain the lead back, which they did. But the secondary unit of Bobby's Bengals defense was not focused this game. And that became evidently clear in the fourth quarter as they let up another touchdown, allowing the Eagles to take the lead back with around 30 seconds left. But one thing that Bobby never had at LSU that he definitely has here is an offense that can score almost any time that they need to. And Bobby Boucher can't help but be incredibly grateful for that, because as Philadelphia throws up this last Hail Mary, he knows that as the ball hits the turf, the main reason why the Bengals have won this game is because of the offense. And he could never really say that back in LSU. But Bobby didn't have too much time to celebrate, because he and the Cincinnati Bengals needed to finish out their home stretch against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders came out this game stronger than Bobby thought they would, as he was introduced to one of the better receivers in the league, Devontae Adams. But Bobby's Bengals were able to put a stop to the Raiders' opening drive and force them to just a field goal. And the Bengals defense would continue to prevent points on third down, or at least hold the Raiders to a field goal without Bobby having to ever really get involved. But Bobby would begin to make his mark in this game right here on second and inches by laying a big hit to the running back. But by the fourth quarter, Bobby had sense that the Raiders were about to break. So he rushed through the line of scrimmage and said on the running back, forcing a fumble and allowing Cincinnati to pick the ball up and put some more points on the board. And he would continue to do his thing on the next drive, laying the perfect boomstick right here on the tight end. But then out of nowhere, the Raiders were able to find a man downfield who took it all the way into the end zone for a touchdown, bringing this game just a little bit closer. But when Bobby Boucher was lurking around the middle, ready to take your head off, and I guess there wasn't really much that could be done, especially if you're Gardner Minshew. So Bobby's Bengals would win another game at home 20-13, and they were riding high going into the back half of the season. But going into the following week, Bobby decided to mess around with some of his abilities to see what could potentially help him make a bigger impact. And he figured he would need it going into another divisional game against the Baltimore Ravens. We start this game off with Bobby's Bengals doing a pretty good job on defense throughout the first quarter. But the Ravens were showing some real determination throughout this game, finding themselves in a position to get in the end zone and take this lead in the second quarter. But Bobby knew the best way to respond would be by putting Derrick Henry in the dirt. The rest of the defense followed Bobby's lead by putting an end to the drive on back-to-back Ravens possessions. Sometimes, though, Bobby would be too busy thinking about mama, because sometimes he would let the team down by letting up a big play, like he did right here. A lot of times his team would have his back, though, getting in position to get an interception and get the Bengals offense in position to put points up. And even when the two-time MVP Lamar Jackson has an opportunity to bring the Ravens back in this game, he can't help but succumb to Bobby's Bengals defense, as they pick him off and return the ball all the way to the other side for a touchdown to extend this lead and end this game. And with the Bengals now having taken care of the Ravens twice this year, Bobby was pretty excited to fly out to Los Angeles for his first time ever and take on the Los Angeles Chargers. Bobby's Bengals did not get off to a good start this game, allowing a touchdown early on in the Chargers' opening drive. They would regain some momentum by preventing points backed up on their goal line by forcing a turnover on Justin Herbert right here. But in the first half, the Bengals just did not seem to be too locked in. Bobby would, though, begin to make his mark by helping his teammate make a tackle right here on this play. But for some reason, it just seemed like the Chargers were having their way with the Bengals, finding themselves in the end zone for the third time in one half. But Bobby was doing everything he could to keep his Bengals alive, even if that meant smacking the horseradish out of a running back, forcing a fumble to create a turnover. But with the Bengals not scoring and the Chargers continuing to move downfield, it was only a matter of time before this game got out of hand. And to say that it got out of hand was kind of an understatement, because before you knew it, the Chargers had put up 49 points on Bobby's Bengals defense. And Bobby didn't really know how to handle it at first, so he just sat on the bench after the game. And he figured maybe if he just continues trading harder, he might forget about how much he misses Mama, while also getting better at football. And it was something that Bobby felt like he was going to need going into one of his last home games of the season against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Starting this game on first down, Bobby is absolutely destroying this poor ball carrier. Now, I don't think he feels too bad about it, because later on in this drive, he does it again. The Bengals would force Pittsburgh to a missed field goal before Bobby got right back to giving the Steelers running back CTE. And to his credit, Bobby was really doing his part this game. I mean, he was getting in the backfield and trying to make a play almost every series. But the Bengals were having a hard time scoring this game, and the Steelers unfortunately didn't. But it wasn't just the offense or the defense that was playing bad, because at the end of the day, the Bengals still didn't have Coach Klein. So when they could have called a timeout to give themselves a chance, nobody decided to do it, leaving Bobby's Bengals with another loss on their record. But Bobby knew the home stretch of the season was coming, and he was a little bit closer to going home to see Mama. So Bobby continued to do the best that he could at practice, preparing for his next couple games on the road, first of which is against the Dallas Cowboys. Bobby's Bengals were looking to bounce back by making big plays early on in this game. But the Dallas Cowboys were no slouch of a team, because Dak Prescott was finding men open left and right, and eventually he found one in the end zone for a touchdown. But Bobby wanted to make sure that they didn't lose anymore. So right here, he dropped back into coverage and said, "Mwah!" And right before halftime, Bobby Boucher is racing down the sideline, going for the first touchdown of his NFL career. And it was a great thing that Bobby really showed up this game, because his daddy Roberto actually told him that the reason why he abandoned him and his mama back in the day is because he lost a bunch of money betting on the Dallas Cowboys in the 80s. So now Bobby wanted revenge on the Cowboys for ruining his family. And Ezekiel Elliott is there to pay for it right here. But once again, the Dallas Cowboys didn't seem to be a team full of punks, as they continued to drive down the field and punch it in on a running play right here. But with the Bengals offense able to take the ball and chew the clock out, they were able to escape Dallas with a victory. But at practice the next week, Coach Klein returned, and he told Bobby that it's probably best that he doesn't go home to Mama for a couple weeks. And although Bobby thought that was crazy, he had to worry about that after, because for now he had a big game against the Tennessee Titans. We start this game off on first down where Bobby is just playing out of his mind, and he wants to get this game over with quick. So on this play, he drops back into coverage and says, "Yeah!" Taking this interception back to the house for his second pick six in 2 weeks. But Bobby wasn't done yet, because he still wanted to let out some frustration. The Bengals defense continued to play almost as well as they have all season, by snatching another interception and going back to the crib for a pick six. And although the Titans would put their little points up and make this game somewhat close, this game was pretty much over before it started because Bobby, well, he was ready to go contact his mama and try to see what was going on. He just couldn't understand why Coach Klein would tell him not to go see his mama, and Bobby just did not feel right about that. So he went on home anyway and accepted any fines that his team was sending his way. And Bobby was shocked to find out what he saw when he got home, because it turns out that Coach Klein and Mama are seeing each other, and they try to convince him that it was okay, but Bobby left anyway. And now going into the final stretch of the season, Bobby Boucher was nowhere to be found, and now Bobby's Bengals were starting to struggle without him, as they lost some of their last few games. They didn't really know what their identity was now, and plus they were all just real worried about Bobby. There was some reports about Bobby riding around on a lawnmower, but without Bobby Boucher, the Bengals would finish out their season with another loss against the Steelers. Eventually though, Bobby would come back, and Coach Klein would tell him that he's sorry for not telling him about his mama, and that they were both looking for the right time to tell Bobby. Bobby does find a way to understand, and puts it all behind him in order to focus on his new friends that he's made here in Cincinnati. So he gets right back to crushing it at practice before getting into his first playoff game against Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. Starting this playoff game in the first quarter, Bobby Boucher feels like a new man. He's got clarity about what's going on with Coach Klein and his mama, and he's giving the Chargers clarity about putting them to sleep. You see, Bobby had never felt as locked in for a game like he was this game. He felt like he was making plays all over the field, whether it was stopping people right in their tracks or dropping back into coverage and saying, "Hey, give me that ball," intercepting Justin Herbert to put his offense in position to finally put points up in this game. And just because they do, it doesn't mean the Chargers offense is going to give up, because they remember how bad they beat the Bengals early on in the year. So they feel like all they got to do is just keep moving down the field, and eventually they'll find themselves in the end zone.
That's completed right side to Palmer. Touchdown, Chargers.
And the Chargers really just showed exactly how much they were feeling that by going for a long touchdown later on right here in the second quarter. But Bobby didn't want this Bengals season to end just yet. He felt bad for missing a few games, so he did everything they could to extend their season by any means necessary.
Powerbomb. Compliment of Captain Insano.
But the rest of Bobby's Bengals were not locked in as they drop an interception right here that could have definitely changed the outcome of this game. Bobby finds himself out of position, allowing a huge play down the field halfway through the fourth. And was maybe a couple feet here from getting another interception in this game. But instead, the drive ends with points for the Chargers. And now with the hands of the Bengals offense, all Bobby can do is watch as Joe Burrow tries his best to lead this offense down the field and take back the lead, which eventually they do. And Bobby came out trying to set the tone for his defense by laying some big hits. And it seemed to work as the Bengals defense was able to hold the Chargers to 3 points in this drive. But now going into Bobby's first overtime of his NFL career, he sees that the Chargers elected to receive. So Bobby knows that his defense needs to make some plays here in order to give the offense a chance. And although Bobby rocks Justin Herbert here, he gets the first down. And although Bobby absolutely rocks the ball carrier here, they pick up that set of first downs. And Bobby would continue this trend of causing brain damage before forcing a fumble that is immediately picked up by the Chargers. Luckily for the Bengals, though, the Chargers would miss this field goal. But the offense was unable to score, giving the Chargers another opportunity to go downfield and take this game on the road. But I think someone had other plans, because right here he drops back into coverage and Bobby Boucher intercepts the pass, and he's going into the end zone for a touchdown. I mean, can you believe this? This has got to be one of the craziest victories in Bengals history. You see Coach Klein and Bobby hyped, and they got to pick up Justin Herbert off the floor. And you see Bobby's Bengals celebrating in the locker room because they are excited that they are moving on to the next round. And looking at the playoff bracket, they're all just excited to see who they're playing next. And at practice that week, Joe Burrow just tells Bobby how much he appreciates him.
Thank you all so much for being my friend.
And that's the kind of love and support the Bengals would need to give each other going into the biggest game of the season against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. this game off on second down, the Chiefs are showing exactly why they're in the position they're in, completing a huge pass downfield to move the sticks. But Bobby's Bengals were ready to show up too, forcing a fumble that resulted in a turnover. Mahomes would continue to pick apart this defense though, completing another big pass all the way downfield. In the second quarter, Travis Kelce was able to bring the Chiefs to the goal line, where Patrick Mahomes found Hollywood Brown in the end zone for a touchdown. Now trailing in this game, Bobby's Bengals knew that they couldn't keep allowing big plays. But by the end of the first half, the Chiefs took a 2-possession lead. And after the defense finally gets one of their first stops on third down all game, it was nice to see that the offense was still alive and able to put up points. But unfortunately, although Bobby would work to get a stop here, Bobby's Bengals were no match for the Chiefs today, as they kicked the field goal with under 20 seconds left to extend the lead to 2 possessions, resulting in Bobby Boucher's rookie season coming to a close. After the game, Bobby is being interviewed by some of the reporters, and he made some comments that might make people suggest that he wants to be out of there, stating that some changes need to be made. Well, I'm not exactly sure what that means quite yet, but for now we find out that Mahomes wins MVP, and Bobby Boucher actually comes 7th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Definitely not bad for his rookie year. But of course, Bobby Boucher ends up winning Defensive Rookie of the Year himself. I mean, there is a reason why they call it Bobby's Bengals. In the Super Bowl, the Packers did find a way to take down the Chiefs, finally bringing the Lombardi back home. And as far as Bobby's stats for the season, I mean 66 total tackles with 18 TFLs and 5 interceptions. Maybe if Bobby plays those 3 games, he actually wins Defensive Player of the Year. Hopefully Bobby can improve on that, but that's really up to you guys. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more Bobby Boucher. And also comment down below who or what else you guys want to see next. If you got to this point in the video, just know that I appreciate you more than you know. And other than that, I'll catch you guys next time.